Some animal organizations use dogs left out in the cold to raise money. This pattern repeats itself every winter. If a dog is left out in the cold and it is a life-threatening situation, or if the dog is dying or has died out in the cold, then that constitutes animal cruelty. Animal cruelty is a crime. Who is best suited for handling crime? Existing law enforcement, which consists of over 1 million men and women across the United States operating every day of the year, 24 hours a day. But almost every dog left out in the cold in a life-threatening situation will never be helped. Likewise, almost every dog and animal that are the victims of animal cruelty will never be helped. They will never be rescued, and the offenders will never be arrested. Why is this so? Because the pathological dynamic continues in which animal cruelty and dogfighting are minimally responded to by law enforcement, and in which there is maximum exploitation by a number of animal organizations and so-called animal advocates. Having the public and donors believe that an animal organization is the answer to animal cruelty ensures donations. Exploiting animal cruelty is very lucrative. Do domestic violence organizations post pictures of abused women or women left out in the cold and claim to be the ones helping those unfortunate women? No, they would never do that because the exploitation would be blatant and it would backfire on them. Instead, domestic violence organizations have long advocated for a proper law enforcement response to the crimes of domestic violence. Dogs and other animals cannot speak. They cannot reveal how cruelty towards them are exploited by a number of animal organizations and individuals, and how crimes against them receive a minimal police response. No other crimes except animal cruelty and dogfighting are so easily dismissed thanks to the well-funded animal organization industry. Animal cruelty by token police teams or by animal organizations granted police powers are ineffective and worthless. They are nothing but an excuse for larger law enforcement to continue to do little to nothing in regards to animal cruelty and dogfighting. Investigations by animal organizations that lack police powers, of which there are many, are ineffective at best and are often an opportunity for animal abusers and dogfighters to get a heads-up notification that they have been discovered and to move their animals elsewhere. Animal cruelty and dogfighting can occur anywhere, anytime. Imagine if other crimes like drunk driving and domestic violence received the same response as animal cruelty and dogfighting. There would be a minimal police response other than with ineffective token police teams. Private anti-drunk driving and anti-domestic violence organizations will conduct even more ineffective and often harmful investigations. There would be exactly what there is for animal cruelty and dogfighting, namely an explosion of those crimes. In 1982, the beginning of one person's police career, the police response to drunk driving and domestic violence were minimal and poor. Anti-domestic violence and anti-drunk driving organizations made sure the police response improved. Animal organizations and animal advocates may agree in theory that there needs to be a better police response to animal cruelty and dogfighting. Some organizations and animal advocates even tell people to call 911, knowing full well that more often than not, the police will not respond appropriately to animal cruelty and dogfighting if they respond at all. Over 20 years ago, a number of animal organizations and so-called animal advocates were begged to fight for a proper police response to animal cruelty and dogfighting. They did nothing to help. They find it far more lucrative to have the public and donors believe they are the ones doing something about animal cruelty and dogfighting. And because animals cannot speak, they get away with this exploitation. Dogs and other animals that are victims of animal cruelty, which is a crime, will never be helped until there is true advocacy and an end to this entrenched animal exploitation. When a picture is shown of a dog left out in the cold and animal organizations ask for money, ask them why, if the dog is truly suffering, dying, or is already dead, they did nothing to make sure the police responded appropriately and recovered the dog and placed that offender under arrest. If animal cruelty and dogfighting laws are truly enforced, animal shelters would be overwhelmed by the huge number of animals truly rescued. The no-call animal movement fiction would finally end, and reasonable human beings that care about animals would have to conclude that humane euthanasia is preferable to a life of abuse and torment. Instead, many of the so-called no-kill animal organizations could care less about abused and fought animals. However, if they can exploit an abused animal for fundraising purposes, they will not hesitate to do so. They could care less what the police do or do not do. All they are interested in is in the fate of a tiny number of dogs and cats in their shelters. They know that people love feel-good stories, and that animal shelter businesses in and of themselves can be lucrative. In short, Abused animals need true animal advocates. They need animal organizations that are willing to fight for an end to animal abuse and dogfighting, rather than to use animal abuse and dogfighting as a way of raising money for themselves. If there's any doubt about any of what I just said, then consider this. Dogfighting is common and widespread. There are many gangs and criminals in the United States. Many gang members and many criminals love to fight dogs. Of the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dogs fought in the United States every year, how many dogfighters get arrested? How many dogs get rescued? There are not even close to 100 arrests nationwide for dogfighting in a given year. A dogfighter has a greater chance of getting struck by lightning than ever getting arrested. The number of misdemeanor animal cruelty arrests are pitifully small compared to the frequency in which the crimes occur. Felony animal cruelty arrests are rare. All of this is made possible by the failure of law enforcement and by the exploitative animal advocates and animal organizations that are just fine with things as they are so long as the money keeps rolling in. There's a lot of money to be made, fame, fortune, and careers to be had being a so-called animal advocate. Donations pour in to animal organizations that claim to be against animal cruelty and the abuse of animals. In the world of animal welfare, animal cruelty and dogfighting, efficacy and accountability is virtually non-existent. Exploitation is rampant. For almost every single dog left dying out in the cold, there will be no one to rescue them. For almost every single animal being fought, there will be no one to rescue them and that will arrest their offender or offenders. For almost every single animal that is abused, no matter how horrifically, there will be no one to help them. The lucrative animal no-kill movement, so-called animal advocates, and the lucrative against cruelty and abuse animal organizations have ensured that maximum exploitation and minimal law enforcement continues. One final note, which should be the topic of a whole nother YouTube, is that this whole thing is also a child welfare issue. Many children are exposed to animal cruelty and dogfighting. They witness it, they participate. Intervening is not only good for the welfare of animals, it's a child welfare issue that's very important for the well-being and health of children.